The Pittsburgh Penguins have been one of the NHL surprise teams this season, but can they sustain their fast start? Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins talks about that and more coming up next on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Penguins, Hunter Hodies. And Hunter, you got to love the start that the Penguins have been off to. I mean, they just went toe-to-toe with the Dallas Stars. And you say they outplayed them for most of the game, even though they end up losing in a shootout.
Yeah, I thought their effort was flawless for most of this game. There were a couple hiccups throughout the way. They probably should have won this game in regulation, but Gil, they got screwed at the end where there was an icing, and then Dallas, credit to the coaching staff, they saw a weakness because the fourth line had been trapped out there. They pulled Jake Ottinger, and they put their 6-man Olympic unit out there because all of those players are going to be going to the Olympics, and they're all world-class players. And they just said, hey, this is a mismatch, and it took them about a minute because there was an extra minute. They got hemmed in before Dallas scored to tie the game late in the third. Penguins have struggled a little bit in 6-on-5 situations this season. Wasn't any different there. They just could not make a change at all. They couldn't get the puck, couldn't get a clear. And it was unfortunate because the Stars really couldn't get anything going at 5-on-5 in the third period. I felt like outside of the shootout, the Penguins deserved a bit of a better fate. Yeah, the Stars had a lot of glorious chances in the 3-on-3. The Penguins had a couple of good ones as well, but the Stars had more of the quality, especially from Jason Robertson, who, if he's not on the Team USA Olympic roster, I really don't know what we're doing here. But I loved the effort from the Penguins in this game. I thought the depth really stepped up. You know, I thought the second line, even with Malkin out, was really good. Tristan Jarry, Gil, continues to play fabulous hockey for this team. Damuis has kind of gone away from the platoon slash, kind of the rotation where he was rotating like a 1A, 1B. It's more of a number one right now where Jarry is continuing to get the starters reps, which he shouldn't. He's the better goaltender, and he was one of the biggest reasons why the Penguins almost won that game and probably should have won that game. Just unfortunate they couldn't finish it off in regulation.
What's been the difference in Jarry this year? Because he has a history of being very inconsistent, and this year his numbers are just really, really outstanding. What's been the difference?
He's confident. I think that's the biggest thing. He's confident. He's challenging shooters. He's playing aggressive. When he's at the top of the crease, you can tell that he's on top of his game. When he's kind of sitting back, almost being like swallowed into the net, that's when he's not playing confident. And so far this year, he's been fabulous. It really has been something completely out of nowhere. Like, I don't think anyone in the fan base saw this coming, especially after the way last season went. And yeah, he played better after coming up from Wilkes-Barre for a second time last year, but it was garbage time. You knew the season was over. But now with the way that he's playing the first couple of months, like this is some of the best hockey that he has played in during his career. The biggest question always is, Gil, though, can he sustain this? Because when you look at some of his splits, he's well and above average goaltender in the first half of the season. But once the calendar flips to January, he goes below average. So can that be different this time? That's going to be the kicker, especially as there's now trade rumors surrounding him and the Oilers. Kyle Dubas is going to be very patient with that. There's no reason to rush something like that, especially with where the Penguins are in the standings.
Is the team playing better defense in front of him? And if they are, does that make it more sustainable?
At times, yes, there are other times where this unit is out to lunch, which, if you look at some of the underlyings, like that will also, show that to you. But Jarry has also been making huge saves. And even Archer Shelovs, before these last couple of starts, he's also made really big, timely saves to bail out some of these defensive errors. So At times, they play well defensively in front of them. I would say just definitely in this game against the Stars, they were really good at 5-on-5 defensively. They held the Stars to not even half an expected goal in the third period at 5-on-5. They were great. But there were other games like you saw against Tampa, Gil, where they were very fortunate to win that game because they were out to lunch defensively. And Tristan Jarry was the only reason why, or one of the only reasons why, they won that game. So it's kind of all over the place sometimes. But, compared to last year, I would say as a whole so far, they have played a bit better when you combine everything so far compared to last year. In front of Jarry, that is.
Evgeni Malkin not in the lineup. How long is he out for? And how did they manage to play well without him today?
Yeah, so he had a maintenance day on Saturday. He was then at the basketball game with a few of the other Penguin players, got a picture with Kevin Durant, which was so cool, by the way. He was day-to-day with an upper body injury. I don't think it's too serious. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back this week. I say that now until something else happens. He's out for a few weeks or something like that. But, Kevin Hayes, the second line center for today against Dallas. I think that may continue for as long as he's out. But again, I don't think it's going to be that long. And once he does come back, he's going to be reunited with what I like to call the big boy line with him, Justin Brazeau, and Anthony Mantha. Now that Brazeau is back, that's so crucial. He was doing a great job finishing off the chances that Malkin was giving him. So hoping it's not too serious. Doesn't sound too serious, but, they practice tomorrow. I'll be there. We'll just have to see. But again, he's been flawless this year, so they can't afford to lose him at all, really.
How about Anthony Mantha? You mentioned him. He really seems to be playing well so far this year.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of weeks, he's been a little inconsistent, hasn't been scoring as much lately. But now that, hopefully, again, the Malkin injury isn't too bad, once he's able to come back, I think that's also going to really help that line as a whole, because that line was just cooking teams left and right when they were all fully healthy. And Mantha had very much a shoot first mentality against the Stars, was a bit unlucky with some of his chances. So, he's been in a little bit of a rut kind of as of late, but as a whole, like when you look at his overall season, Gil, yeah, he's been fabulous. It's been a really nice fit, despite there are a couple instances where he hasn't been on top of his game, but middle six players, they go through that at times during their careers.
What in your mind is the key for this team to sustain their success?
It's a good question. Obviously, you got to stay healthy, but I wanted to see them string together more 60-minute performances. I thought this one against the Stars was very much on display outside of at the end. But, if they can keep getting the depth scoring, if they can keep getting the goaltending, that really has to hold. And the special teams can continue to do their thing. There's no reason to think this team can't make the playoffs. Like, I'm still not ready to say yet, Gil, if this is a legitimately good team. I'm getting closer just because of the way they've been playing for the last couple of weeks, especially after Damu's called them out after that loss to Seattle. He even said, this was a weekend where they had an opportunity to get 4 points and they only got one. And he said, that's not good enough. This is a coach that wants to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. I said this on another show tonight. He must have not gotten the memo from management, Gil, that this team was not supposed to be good this year. And obviously, coaches and players are never going to, tank games or anything like that. A front office can position a team to not be good, but the players and coaches are still going to go out there and play and coach their asses off. So, he's done such a good job. If this team does make the playoffs, I think he deserves to win the Jack Adams, just with the way that how much fun this team is to watch, so much puck pressure, so much puck support. It feels like he really does have a good grasp of this team. And ever since he called them out, they've won 4 of 6, 4-1-1 in their last 6. They're getting a bit healthier. The rest of this month is still going to be tough, but they just finished a week where they got 5 out of 6 points. They probably should have had 6. It's still a really good week considering where they were at heading in. So in terms of consistency, staying healthy, more 60-minute performances, the goaltending has to hold, special teams, and, all of that, and playing still maybe a bit better defensively, figuring out some of the past regulation things with overtime and the shootout, if they can ever figure that out. I really do think this has the makings of being a solid team, and you've seen that so far. They're better than literally anyone expected them to be.
No doubt about that. It's been a fun season so far. Hunter, I know you'll have it covered every step of the way. Why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you and your co-host on social media?
Yeah, so you can find the Locked On Penguins podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, all those audio platforms. And of course, on YouTube, you can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodies. You can follow Pat, my co-host, on Blue Sky at Send 'Em for Wet. And you can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And we're on Instagram, Locked On_Penguins. So there you go.
All right. Thank you, Hunter.
Thank you, as always.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you could place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.